and welcome to our daily news roundup right here on Atlantic TV. I am Nkechi Tejiri. Here are our top stories. Federal government unveils agri reforms, targets 21 million jobs. EFCC says Yahoo boys foiling tougher visa restrictions for Nigerians. Tinubu's reforms unavoidable. Fuel subsidy removal had national consensus, says APC chair Yiwald Da. Ndube to Nupeng Dapman. Support Dangote. Stop demonizing him. UN plans $500 million budget cut in 2026 as Trump's policies bite. Genius De Bruyne returns to Man City with Napoli in Champions League showdown. Now to the news in full. The federal government has launched sweeping agricultural reforms, pledging to create over 21 million jobs and boost food security under President Bola Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda. Vice President Kashim Shettima outlines the plans on Tuesday at the FAO's Hand-in-Hand Investment Forum in Abuja. In his keynote, Vice President Shettima described hunger as the great equalizer and stressed that Nigeria can irrigate more than 3 million hectares of farmland, yet currently uses less than 10% of that potential. He insisted that investment in irrigation alone could triple yields, boost resilience against climate shocks, and transform rural communities into hubs of wealth creation. Also speaking, the Agriculture Minister Abubakar Kyari said Nigeria's vast arable land, clement weather, and digital economy offers investors unique opportunities. The EU and FAO pledged fresh support, with the EU announcing an €80 million investment into Nigeria's value chains across 7 states. International delegates, including Gambia's Agriculture Minister, praised Nigeria's leadership in rice and cassava production, urging other West African countries to emulate its success. With food prices soaring and inflation biting, government officials say these reforms could mark a turning point for Nigeria's agriculture sector and for millions of rural households hoping for jobs and stability. The reforms include new incentives for investors, expansion of irrigation projects, and easier access to credit. Government officials say the measures will not only reduce hunger, but also diversify the economy and cut reliance on food imports. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has warned that cyber fraud, popularly called Yahoo Yahoo, is worsening Nigeria's image abroad and fueling tougher visa restrictions for law-abiding citizens. The EFCC chairman, Olukoyede, stressed that the crimes tarnish Nigeria's reputation, leading to stricter visa policies from countries like the United States, which currently cuts the validity of certain visas to 3 months and single entry. He urged young people to redirect their talent into productive ventures like digital innovation, agriculture, and entrepreneurship instead of shortcuts that end in prison. The EFCC boss added that the Commission will intensify awareness campaigns, community engagement, and enforcement to curb cybercrime nationwide. With Nigeria battling its global image, the anti-graft agency insists the fight against cybercrime is not just about arrests, but about saving the country's reputation and protecting the future of its youths. The EFCC chairman, Ola Olukoyede, represented by Chief Superintendent CSE Koka Oyegunle, gave the warning in Port Harcourt during an event organized by the Coalition of Nigerian Youth on Security and Safety Affairs. He said internet fraud not only destroys the future of perpetrators, but also costs the nation billions, cripples job creation, and denies Nigerians opportunities. The national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Professor Nentawe Yiwatda, has defended President Bola Tinubu's economic reforms, saying Nigerians across political and social divides agreed on the removal of fuel subsidy and other policy changes. The APC chairman recalled that before Tinubu's reforms, the federation shared barely 500 billion naira monthly compared to 2 trillion naira shared last month. He argued that almost all political parties and presidential candidates supported subsidy removal, foreign exchange unification, and tax reforms during the 2023 elections. Yilwatda said the policies have stabilized state finances, unlike in the past when 24 states struggled to pay salaries. According to him, the reforms are strengthening federal, state, and local governments, ensuring improved service delivery across the country. Professor Yilwatda concluded that while the reforms may be tough in the short term, they are laying the foundation for Nigeria's long-term economic stability. Speaking on the TV program, Yilwatda insisted the reforms were necessary and are already yielding results. He noted that government revenues have surged, with states and local councils now receiving more allocations and paying workers' salaries without delay. With just hours to his return as governor of Rivers State, the People's Democratic Party has urged Siminalayi Fubara to remain loyal to the party and resist pressure from the All Progressives Congress to defect. In separate interviews, PDP Deputy National Legal Advisor Okechukwu Osoha and Deputy National Youth Leader Timothy Osadolo said the governor must restore peace to Rivers politics after months of crisis. Osoha explained that the governor's suspension was tied to the state of emergency declared by President Bola Tinubu to avert total breakdown of law and order, but insisted that with no extension, Fubara must immediately resume his constitutional duties. He acknowledged controversy over the legality of suspending an elected governor, but emphasized that the way forward was unity between the executive, the House of Assembly, and political stakeholders. The PDP also warned that no politician survives outside their party's structure, urging Fubara to fully commit to PDP activities and rebuild trust with the people. Governor Fubara, suspended in March during Rivers' political turmoil, is expected to be back in office on Wednesday as the state braces for a fresh chapter in its turbulent power struggle. The PDP also demanded that Fubara probe the management of the state during the 6-month emergency rule, stressing that his comeback must be marked by accountability, reconciliation, and renewed development. Former Senate leader Ali Ndume has appealed to players in Nigeria's downstream oil sector to support the Dangote refinery instead of engaging in what he described as a war of attrition that could cripple the economy. In a statement on Wednesday, Ndume criticized what he called poisonous media narratives aimed at painting Dangote in a bad light. He recalled that as far back as 2002 and 2007, government had issued refinery licenses to private operators, but most did nothing with them, preferring instead to profit from crude allocations and fuel imports. Ndume stressed that only Dangote took the bold step to invest in a world-class refinery despite the risks. He urged unions and marketers to work with Dangote to strengthen Nigeria's refining capacity rather than frustrate it. The Department of State Services recently intervened to broker peace after Nupeng's strike shut down oil depots, a move the DSS described as a national security threat. Senator Ndume maintained that instead of ganging up against Dangote, stakeholders should rally behind him, noting that his refinery represents Nigeria's best chance at ending decades of fuel import dependence. This follows a recent face-off between Dangote Refinery, Nupeng, and Dapman. While Nupeng accused Dangote of preventing truck drivers from joining its union, Dapman claimed the refinery was stiffening competition by favoring international traders. The Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, NAMA, has urged the National Assembly to end the deduction of 50% of its internally generated revenue, warning that the policy is crippling its ability to meet international obligations and expand critical aviation infrastructure. In a statement by its Director of Public Affairs and Consumer Protection, NAMA highlighted that the 50% GIGR deduction has hindered its capacity to maintain control towers, radars, and communication networks. The agency also warned that without relief, it would struggle to train personnel, upgrade surveillance systems, and sustain uninterrupted service delivery to airlines. Umar called for the full enforcement of Section 9, Subsection 2 of the NAMA Act 2022, which stipulates that all charges collected by the agency should not be subject to deductions. Meanwhile, Chairman of the House Committee on Aviation, Abdullahi Garba, assured stakeholders that the National Assembly is committed to developing actionable plans to strengthen aviation safety, improve infrastructure, and boost regulatory compliance. With the sector battling rising demands for modernization, stakeholders insist that resolving the funding challenge is key to keeping Nigeria's skies safe and competitive globally. Speaking at a House Committee on Aviation retreat in Abuja, NAMA Managing Director Engineer Farouk Umar stressed that financial reforms are essential to modernizing the aviation sector and ensuring compliance with International Civil Aviation Organization standards. You're watching our daily news roundup. We'll go for a short break. On the other side, more news stories to come.
Don't miss out on exciting news, events, and more. Stay connected by following us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Atlantic Media and TV.
Welcome back. Now on the international scene. The United Nations is bracing for a sharp 15% budget cut in 2026, with Secretary General Antonio Guterres warning that US President Donald Trump's policies have deepened the organization's liquidity crisis. In letters to member states and UN staff, Guterres admitted the cutbacks will have painful consequences. Some staff will be relocated to cheaper duty stations like Nairobi, others reassigned, and some separated from service altogether. The UN chief says the decision is part of his UN 80 initiative to make the body leaner and more efficient, but insists the move was forced by shrinking contributions. The US traditionally covers 22% of the UN's regular budget, but under Trump, funding delays and shortfalls have worsened the financial strain. The proposed budget, which still requires General Assembly approval, marks one of the steepest reductions in the UN's history. If adopted, the 2026 budget will reshape the UN's operations globally, with Guterres calling for resilience as the organization navigates one of its toughest financial tests. The revised budget of $3.238 billion represents a $500 million reduction and would see nearly 2,700 jobs eliminated. While peace and security, human rights, and sustainable development programs will be affected, Guterres says support for the world's least developed nations will be spared. Iran has executed a man convicted of spying for Israel's Mossad intelligence agency, the judiciary announced on Wednesday. Mizan online reported that Shabhazi was arrested after infiltrating companies designing and installing industrial cooling systems for security-linked facilities. His access, investors said, allowed him to leak data to Israel's intelligence network. The execution comes weeks after Iran hanged Rosber Vadi, an employee of a subsidiary of the Atomic Energy Organization, for handing nuclear secrets to Israel. Iran's intelligence services also claim to have arrested 20 suspected Mossad agents across Tehran and other provinces. Human rights groups says Iran remains the world's second most prolific executioner after China, raising concerns about due process in cases tied to national security. The execution underscores escalating hostilities between Iran and Israel following months of confrontation as Tehran vows tougher action against alleged collaborators. The convict Babak Shabbazi was hanged after the Supreme Court upheld his sentence for corruption on earth and waging war against God. Authorities said he had worked on projects linked to Iran's military and telecommunications sectors, passing sensitive information to Mossad in exchange for money and foreign residency. China's youth unemployment rate has surged in a record high of 18.9% in August, the highest level since the government revised its calculation last year. The figure adds to growing concerns over the health of the world's second largest economy. The youth jobless rate had previously soared by 21% in mid-2023, forcing authorities to suspend monthly publication before resuming with a new methodology that excluded students. Despite policy interventions, the latest spike underscores Beijing's struggle to stabilize growth. China's overall unemployment has ticked up slightly to 5.3% in August, with government officials admitting that some enterprises are facing operational difficulties. Observers say rising joblessness among young people risks fueling social frustration, just as China works to revive its slowing economy. With unemployment climbing and growth slowing, global markets are watching closely to see how Beijing responds to one of its most pressing economic challenges in decades. Away from the foreign stories, the National Bureau of Statistics confirmed the rise, citing weak domestic demand, factory shutdowns, and retail sales at their lowest pace in nearly a year. Analysts warn the latest figures highlights the strain facing Beijing as it battles debt crisis, sluggish consumer spending, and trade tensions with Washington. Away from the international stories now to sports news, Kevin De Bruyne makes an emotional return to the Etihad Stadium on Thursday as Napoli face Manchester City in the Champions League. The Belgian star has hit the ground running in Italy, scoring twice in 3 matches and inspiring Napoli to a perfect Serie A start. De Bruyne, who spent a decade at City, winning 6 Premier League titles and the 2023 Champions League, is expected to receive a warm welcome from fans. Napoli, last season's Italian champions, are brimming with confidence after a 3-1 win at Fiorentina, where De Bruyne scored from the spot. But Conte admits Wednesday's clash is the moment of truth, with City showing their strength in the derby win with Manchester United. Criticized in the past for inflexibility in Europe, Conte says he and his squad are pupils learning from the masters, hoping one day the pupil can surpass the teacher. Meanwhile, Napoli's owner Aurelio De Laurentiis has reinforced the squad with reinvestments after cashing in on stars Victor Osimhen and Vizca. All eyes will be on De Bruyne's homecoming as Napoli seek to test Pep Guardiola's men and prove they belong among Europe's elite. At 34 and after battling persistent hamstring injuries, De Bruyne has been rejuvenated under Antonio Conte, who has carved out a creative midfield role for him. Conte calls him a bit of genius, saying his vision and quality gives Napoli a new edge in Europe. Kwara United say they remain confident of hosting their CAF Confederation Cup preliminary tie against Ghanaian giants Asante Kotoko in Ilorin, despite uncertainty over the approval of the Rashidi Yekini Stadium. During a recent visit to the stadium, Governor Abdul Rahman Abdul Rasak assured fans of government's backing to ensure the venue is ready in time. He stressed that his administration is determined to avoid the Harmony Boys relocating to Lagos or Abuja. Kwara United's general manager, Bashir Badauli, also confirmed the club is in close contact with the NFF, saying an official announcement from CAF is expected soon. Meanwhile, Remo Stars have already secured approval to play their CAF Champions League fixtures at the MKO Abiola Stadium in Abeokuta, sparking rumors that Kwara United could also be forced to move there if Ilorin fails the inspection. For now, however, the club insists that the Harmony Boys will be ready to welcome Kotoko at home. Kwara United, winners of the 2025 Federation Cup, face Asante Kotoko in the first preliminary round of the Confederation Cup, with fans anxiously waiting CAF's final decision on Ilorin. The club's media officer, Ayodeji Ismail, told reporters that massive renovation works are ongoing to bring the stadium up to CAF standards, with the officials awaiting an inspection visit from the continental body. And with that news story, we round up the Daily News Roundup right here on Atlantic TV. Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms for more details and updates on more news stories. Thank you so much for watching. I am Nkechi Tejere. Have a pleasant day.